While growing up, there were tons of tales of people spotting flying UFOs, unidentified flying objects. The news was filled with UFO spottings and alien sightings. This was usual during the late 90s and early 2000s. What if we tell you the same old conversation is back because ISS spotted a UFO? However, what if you were told the alien invasion myth is a reality and we really are under constant observation of aliens? A spaceship as huge as 3,000 miles is discovered by the International Space Station, which has given chills to the astronauts. On November 15, things were quite routine on board the International Space Station, ISS, with experiments to run, equipment to maintain, and a big UFO cover-up to continue. You may wonder what that is. You weren't aware of the extensive denial of UFO sightings? You simply weren't paying attention, so that's why. When astronaut Scott Kelly, who is halfway through his lengthy 1 year in space, put out the following tweet at the end of the space station's workday, the great conspiratorial secret was revealed. Beautiful stuff, but nothing particularly noteworthy from Kelly, who has spent his whole time in the air sharing photos on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But it seems like he acted carelessly this time. Take a glance at the image's upper right corner. Yes, the shiny object with a brilliant light right there, UFO. That is undoubtedly the opinion of UFO Sightings Daily blog editor Scott C. Waring, who is able to identify alien spacecrafts when he sees one and establish its design and size. He stated, "The UFO is approximately 25 meters long and 150 to 200 meters away." He went on to describe it as having a metallic body in the shape of a cigar. On September 11, Daniel uploaded a video from ISS's live camera feed, which transmits online. He points out a faint, elongated white form in his captioned video that is situated beneath the curvature of the Earth and is surrounded by a clean row of equally faint white dots. It is an awesome UFO mothership giving out an orb fleet on ISS live stream. That would be truly fantastic. According to ufologist Mark D'Antonio, chief photo and video analyst for an international organization called the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, the faint white marks in this image are a common sight because they are reflections of the ISS's windows. He has examined thousands of ISS images and videos that are said to contain UFOs. Yes, indeed, that is one of the possible explanations. Another, admittedly more mundane explanation is that the UFO is a reflection of the space station window. Even more likely, it is an overhanging piece of the station that happened to catch some light. The International Space Station, ISS, is more significant than a football field with solar wings, experimental platforms, and habitation pods dangling from it in all directions. As this tweet from Kelly on November 12 shows, getting a clear shot without some piece of hardware getting in the way is not always easy. Regarding the mysterious object, Mark D'Antonio stated, "Basically, when you're looking at any object, if there's a window between you and the object, the window is always suspect. Your first move in trying to identify the object is to eliminate that it's a reflection." It's impossible to say which part of the station was glinting back at Kelly's camera while the rest was in shadow, but a smart Forbes story makes a strong case that it's the high-definition Earth viewing system, which is mounted on the exterior of the European Space Agency's Columbus module. The HDEV houses several HD cameras in 2 temperature-controlled canisters that are also covered in reflective material. But this was not the first time there had been talk in the tinfoil hat community about astronauts and ET collaborating. During John Glenn's historic 3-orbit mission in 1962, ice crystals clinging to his ship's exterior swarmed and reflected sunlight back at him. Glenn referred to them as fireflies, which sparked a slew of rumors about their alleged alien origin. When Frank Borman and Jim Lovell flew in Gemini 7 in 1965, one of their exercises was to keep up with the spent second-stage booster that had helped get them into orbit. Borman dubbed it a bogey, a pilot jargon for an enemy aircraft. Moreover, that rekindled the flame. "We always referred to it as a bogey, which was natural normal parlance for it," Borman said in a NASA oral history. When we returned, True Magazine published a big story about how we had been tracking a UFO and all that nonsense. So that has been bothering me ever since. Once, an American astronaut did radio in a direct report of a UFO. The astronaut was Tom Stafford, who was aboard Gemini 6, which entered orbit at the same time as Gemini 7 to practice rendezvous maneuvers. Stafford was unequivocal about what he was seeing. He radioed down, "We have an object. It appears to be a satellite traveling from north to south, most likely in polar orbit. He appears to be planning to return soon. In front of me, I see a command module and 8 smaller modules. The command module's pilot is dressed in a red suit." Then NASA heard a tiny bit of unmistakable rendition of Jingle Bells performed on a miniature harmonica and a set of bells. It was Christmas Eve, and Gemini 6 Commander Wally Schirra, who had smuggled the instrument aboard, thought the occasion should be commemorated in some way. The bell and harmonica are now on display at the Smithsonian Institution's Air and Space Museum. Other alien sightings, including Kelly's, are unlikely to have such a prominent place in history. The object is more likely to be a reflection because the news was not taken as seriously as it should have been. For one thing, the object is in a different plane of focus than Earth, he explained. A camera set to a maximum distance focus would capture the Earth and any other distant objects in the same focal plane. This implies that the white blur is not far away, but relatively nearby, a reflection of the window inches in front of it. Second, the fact that neither the ISS crew nor ground control were alarmed by this object suggests that they've seen it all before. The ground control personnel assumed that this was a reflection in the window, as most are. Former NASA engineer James Oberg sifted through all the sightings and stories and politely debunked them using science. What is the conclusion? According to Oberg, most of your crazy UFO sightings are nothing more than space dandruff, or your brain's misunderstanding of what space travel actually looks like. Oberg became a space journalist and historian after working at NASA Mission Control in the late 1990s. It wasn't until recently that he began to take UFO sightings seriously. His goal isn't to simply stomp on true believers, which he refers to as stomping on dormice, but rather to figure out what's going on in these images and videos and why people are reacting so strongly to them. According to Oberg, our brains become confused when things change because our senses are so used to focusing on relatively slow-moving objects as well as specific light and atmosphere conditions. Some of the most common sights he has debunked involve NASA's astronauts allegedly seeing UFOs and being forced to remain silent, which Oberg believes is due to us watching too many sci-fi and not really understanding what space really looks like. There are tons of space stories linked to aliens and UFO sightings, but all of them are debunked by Oberg, explaining the reason and mistake in every occasion. His goal isn't to simply stomp on true believers, which he refers to as stomping on dormice, but rather to figure out what's going on in these images and videos and why people are reacting so strongly to them. Has an interstellar space station accidentally been spotted hovering close by the International Space Station? Or is the hazy streak seen by UFO investigators in recent NASA footage taken from the window of a space station really a reflection in the window? Let the scenario that seems most likely win.